All right. And as Bill O'Reilly said, welcome everybody to the Critical Blast Cavern. Tonight our guest is Scott Payne, and we are talking about Chaotic Flux, the sophomore issue. That's number 2, which means we've done this once already now. I am your host, R.J. Carter, author of The Destroyer Bully Pulpit, Continental Divide, and Monumental Terror. And for those of you who are showing up, who just love to hit that super chat button, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you have to put your wallets away. We don't have one. So just relax and enjoy the show. Don't worry if you had any cash at all that you were going to put on the table. This guy was just going to run right along here and steal it from you. He likes to grab at it. So, Scott, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, bud. Man, how you doing?
Man, I couldn't be much better. We're getting to do a lot more of these live streams. I think people are enjoying these interviews. We do it a little bit different here because a lot of the crowdfunding live streams come out and they're all about the technicals of how's your campaign going? What are you doing to push the book? And here we're like, why do we want to buy the book? Tell us what it's about. Who's the artist? Where's it going? All that kind of inside the book stuff. Just like we're at a virtual comic shop. So we'll start off with the fact that this is the second issue. You have proven yourself already with this. So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about this world of Chaotic Flux. Because first thing I think of is Aeon Flux, and it's nowhere near what we're at here.
yeah. The name's similar. So let me start from the beginning, I suppose. Well, I'll start with the pitch. So Chaotic Flux centers on a team a team of unique warriors who unite in the future to rid the world of a plague of mutant abominations that are taken over called Dreadfiends, as well as other very sinister threats to the world in the future. And they're actually humanity's last hope in this timeline. This comic started about 20 years ago with me developing the story elements, the different characters. I'm a big fan of X-Men, and I really wanted to make a team-based comic with different unique characters that make up this team, but also about them having to push themselves with their abilities to learn how to evolve themselves, evolve their abilities, go up against really powerful threats, to see that come out of them, to see them work together, forced to work together as a team, to become better and stronger, but also all the personal things that go on as well between the teammates, conflicts that happen between them, and relationships. I really wanted to get deep into the humanity behind the characters. So I started building this storyline, building this team, and it took, like I said, 20 years, and then finally about, it was almost 2 years ago now, I got all the pieces together right in my head to where I could do it and it be cohesive and not feel all disjointed or strange, because I do have a lot of elements going on in the storyline. There's sci-fi, there's fantasy, there's horror, there's action adventure. There's a lot of different things pulled from different genres and different inspirations. As I mentioned, the X-Men's a big influence, as well as Resident Evil, Game of Thrones, and Battle Chasers. There's even some Avengers in there. There's some Gundam and things like that. So different anime as well, and manga. The team. Let me start with issue 1 and issue 2. That focuses on a character named Sathara. Sathara is an alien hybrid who is able to form these crystal-like structures at will. These structures she's able to generate into different types of weaponry, form them into different types of weaponry. She often will use them as kind of turning her arms into blades. Various other things as well. You see her use them for in the series, like throwing daggers. So she's very roguelike, very much like a stealthy type character. She's very agile, very maneuverable. She can also form weapons in the series as it goes on for her allies. And she has these unique eyes that actually allow her to see focus on 3 targets at once, because she's got 3 pupils in each eye. It also gives her a 180 view.
She's my new iPhone.
Kind of like this. Yeah. she's kind of like, with that, and then her ability to generate these crystal structures to turn into weaponry. She's like this born warrior, so to speak. And the first issue, like I said, focuses on her as well as the second one. It gets into her first run-in with the Dreadfiends in the present, and then it also gets into her past when she was 12 years old. And most of her life, she's been hunted down by an organization called the Order of the Purging Hand. They've been wanting or trying to wipe out her kind for decades. Their belief is that anything that is not of Earth, anything that's not naturally of Earth, should be eliminated. And so, when she's young, she's housed in this military facility, military guarded research facility called Lateralus. And in this facility, the Order of the Purging Hand infiltrated and start slaughtering anyone inside the facility to get to the children, to wipe them out. And so Zathara, it's do or die time. So she starts quickly trying to learn. She has the help of a doctor named Dr. Moen, as well as a military sergeant named Sergeant Perry, and they help her utilize her skills because they feel that the doctor thinks that's the best plan, to get her to learn how to use her abilities quickly as possible. And they had actually been training before this, but then she puts a device on her head that actually amplifies her learning ability, because her kind, she's half Sakaran. The Sakarans are actually able to learn things faster than humans. And the device that she puts on her head, the doctor puts on her head, it amplifies that. So then she quickly learns better how to use her abilities. And then it kicks off to where they're going through the facility and trying to fight off all these soldiers. You also get introduced to Soren, who is an exosuit pilot in the series. And you get introduced to Strife, who is a big transforming AI mecha. He can actually turn into all sorts of things. He can self-engineer, so he can deconstruct himself and reform parts of himself into whatever he wants, or his whole body, actually. For instance, he can turn into a transport ship for the team. He can turn into a bombardment mode, which is like a splayed out kind of mode where all of his cannons are out, and he can fire long-range missiles and things like that. He'll turn all sorts of things as the series goes on. He also will create things that are for the teammates to help them out. He's like this huge support unit, basically. And there are three of the members of the team. The team is called Crimson Flame. Then there's also later comes in Gareth, who is a big 8-foot-tall swordsman with a giant transforming sword, as well as Nalaria, who is a fire-based mage, and Pagan, who's a plant-based mage, and that's her father. The Dreadfiends, I almost forgot to mention them. The Dreadfiends are these creatures that were genetically engineered by humans as a food source, because in this dark future, there's a lot of global catastrophes that are happening, as well as a lot of war, fighting over land. What land is left that's worth living on, and hasn't just been ravaged. So there's a lot of a lack of food source and a sustainable food source. So they genetically engineer this life form that can survive in the harsh elements, but also reproduce very rapidly. At first, it's a very docile creature, but then it starts to mutate and evolve on its own and reproduce like it was engineered to do, but in the wrong way, to where these things are now eating the humans. They're going after everyone, but at the same time, like I said, they reproduce very rapidly, so they begin to spread across the world like an uncontrollable plague. And
when your food source becomes sentient, it's very hard to keep it as a food source.
Yes, as people have mentioned before, they're what is it? Man-eating cows. So, if you want to think of it that way. So, one of the interesting things about
human blood.
Well, that's part of like their defectiveness, is that they have this insatiable appetite that seems to never be satisfied. And it comes from their ability, their mutation. They are actually constantly mutating. They mutate somewhat on a I should say low level, but it just happens. It's uncontrollable for them. But then they can also mutate at will by feeding on flesh. They can use this as a biofuel. They'll break it down and use that as an energy to mutate themselves, making themselves, for instance, extra arms, wings for flight, more strength, speed, whatever they need to get the upper hand in battle. And they can also reproduce when they feed on a life form. When they break it down, they can clone themselves. And when they do this, they will regurgitate the clone, and then it will quickly grow into an adult form. And every new generation that is made is better than the last one. So they're a little smarter, a little faster, a little stronger, for instance. So they're like this ultimate, forever evolving, mutating, crazy thing.
Doomsday.
Yeah. And so that I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil series and monsters that can, change and get crazier as time goes on. So in a sense, they're walking nightmares, and that's how we designed them. And like I said, was saying earlier, I like the idea of teams that have to, or characters anyway, that have to keep bettering themselves, keep becoming better warriors. I mentioned earlier that X-Men is a big influence, but actually more so X-Men Age of Apocalypse is a huge influence on this series. In that series, if you remember, the X-Men were pushed their limits to deal with all the crazy things that Apocalypse is throwing at him and his Four Horsemen in that ravaged future where he was trying to wipe out all the humans. And so very much influenced by that. And a little later comes into it Malachar, who is a dark entity who's made up of all the hatred of mankind. All of our dark thoughts generate his existence. He lives on another plane of reality, but he hates his own existence and wants to wipe out his existence. He just doesn't want to exist anymore. So he thinks the best way to do that is wipe out the human race, since we're generating him anyway. So he embodies a young man named Gabriel, who's actually Nalaria's brother in the series, and uses him as his vessel to interact with our world and become this kind of omnipotent being to wipe out the human race.
Now, this all happened in issue
a lot
one?
of crazy threats. No. Well, you see Malachar's army in issue 1. You get a glimpse of that. But issue 1 sets up some elements that are coming, and then it more so goes into Zathara's story. I've designed this series right now. Anyway, I might change it later, but right now I'm focusing on Zathara, getting her backstory out of the way, and laying that out, since she's more of a complicated character than some of the others. So laying out her backstory, and then after I do her, then we're going to go into Soren and Strife's backstory, and then we get into Gyarados, and then we get into Nalaria and Pagan. So I'm doing it like the Avengers films, where they, first you had Iron Man's main, story laid out, and then you had Captain America and Thor and so on, and then we come to a point where they will unite as a team, and you'll see them face off against their first great foe together. As those different stories go along, they'll be slowly united through that.
It's very difficult to write an engaging team book, because for the last several years, if it's going to be a brand new team book, it's basically random set of powers living under the same roof. Let's go fight.
Right.
But back in the day, when I had to walk to the comic shop in the snow barefoot uphill both ways, you had teams that got along and didn't get along.
Right.
With the X-Men, it was constantly Wolverine did not like Cyclops, and vice versa.
Right.
In the Justice League, you almost had to pry Green Arrow and Hawkman apart because they were going to throw punches at each other. There was strife inside these teams, and it drove readers to engage with the characters. Bianca, aloha! Thanks for popping in. But now it's been like, not only is it like random power set, but it's the same random power sets as before. It was I'm going back, I guess, to the '90s here, where it was like, leader with a bow and arrow,
Hmm.
tall, skinny chick who throws magic, great big guy made out of concrete. Uh, they were all the same people in all the same teams. So how do you how do you show the relationships of your team members in a way, especially when they're a fresh team? I mean, when X-Men first came out, we didn't need to know the origin of Cyclops and Beast and Iceman and Jean Grey. It was just like, they're mutants. This is what they can do. They go fight, but here's how they react with each other.
Hmm.
So they didn't need power origins, but we did get team interaction building right away.
Right. Um, well, it's kind of okay.
This is
So
stuff you got to think of before the first issue.
yeah. Well, the like I said, I've designed it to where you get a lot of, I guess, uh, fill out of the characters at first. You get, um, you, you get. I'm building emotional connection to the characters, for sure, for the reader, and I wanted to build this kind of idea where, like in Zathara's case, we're seeing that she a lot of she has a lot of interpersonal things that she deals with, in particular how um she can count how many people actually cared about her in her life on one hand, and versus just either wanting to wipe her out or use her for their own benefit. And so that gets laid out early on. You get you get a sense of her distrust for humanity. Um, so some of these things I feel are important to lay out before they we start mixing the team together. Um, but I'd say it's more so for her because of that's how she looks at humanity. The Soren and Strife, when we get to them, they kind of hit it up. They hit it off pretty well right at the beginning because Soren befriends Strife, and they form this kind of like, you know, imagine having your own giant robot, and how that can do anything, how cool that would be, and in the sense that the robot itself is very friendly and wants to learn about humanity and help us as much as possible. So I'm building an interesting kind of big brother, little brother, in a sense, relationship there. And
Kind of like
then
Frankenstein Jr. If you
kind of,
remember
yeah,
that old cartoon.
yeah. And then in the case of Nalaria, I'm sorry, Zathara and Gyarados, they formed this kind of big brother, little sister relationship together. And through him, she finally starts to see humanity as something more than just something that uh, wants to, see her gone from the world. Um, she's had that a little bit in the past from other people, but another thing with her is all those people have been taken away from her. So there's another trust level there where she's not sure if she should build a relationship with someone else because they can be gone tomorrow too, suddenly, especially in this dark future.
Well, she's an alien hybrid.
Yeah,
She's an alien hybrid. Does her world still exist, or is she
it
one of these
does.
last sun?
She okay, so yeah, so the Sakaran race that she's half of, they actually saved humanity 19 years before the present time takes place in the storyline. They were being attacked,
Thank you
or
for me.
human race. The Earth was being attacked by the Krakaran, which are another alien race that were trying to um, take our planet for their own, and we were almost wiped out. And at pretty much the last minute, the Zakarans come in and saved us. And then so the Krikkarn, they they quickly got out of there. They left. They retreated, and the Sakarans then became started interacting, or we became allies. Since they saved us, so um, we started learning their ways and their technology, and vice versa, and building relationships with them. And in turn, this advanced our technology a great deal. But at the same time, there were people on Earth, namely the Order of the Purging Hand, who didn't like the aliens at all and wanted to eradicate them. So that created conflicts there. And some of the aliens did have relationships with the humans and had children. But all this, the Zakarians started feeling that it was unsafe to stay on the planet. And at first, they were going to cut ties with humans for now and just leave and take the hybrid children with them. But then the Krikaren found their world, started attacking them, which left them no choice but to leave the Earth and go and fight that war. But they didn't want to take the children with them because they didn't think it was going to be safe. It would be safer to leave them, even though it's more like a double-edged sword, because the Purging Hand could still find them and kill them, but they thought it was still at least a little safer than take them into a war zone. So the military, though, had agreed to house the children in a very heavily guarded research facility to protect them while the Scarans were gone. But before that, there is... I can't say too much about that. Okay, so well, just say that's where Zatara ends up, and in the storyline in her childhood, and she's raised there most of her childhood until the Order of the Purging Hand come to infiltrate the facility.
Now, does a full-blooded Sakaran is a full-blooded Sakaran more powerful than one of these Sakaran human hybrids, or do the hybrids become something more so with humanity mixed in it? And if so, what is humanity contributing that the Sakarans don't have?
Right. I can't. I don't. I'm worried about doing spoilers.
Or it's just a mutant. Just say it's a hybrid mutant and it works.
Right, there you go. But I will say that the full-blood Sakaran are a darker blue skin, but yeah. So that's where you get the kind of sky blue skin with Zatara, is it's the lighter, because her mother was Caucasian, so it's that mixed with the I just not thought about that. So what if it was an African American who gets with a Sakaran when they have really dark blue skin? But anyway, so yeah, I can't, because I have spoiler reasons I can't say too much about what you just asked me.
Don't spoil it. But you're planning quite a long epic. It's starting to sound like here, and
yeah,
is it going to have to crowdfund each issue?
I hope. I mean, I would like to eventually get to where that's not the case, but at the same time, I'm enjoying the creative freedom with not going with a publisher or anything like that. I had at first tried publishers. I submitted to quite a few, all the big ones except for the ones that will accept what's the word I'm looking for? Entries. Marvel, they only accept artists, so they don't accept full things. They do their own thing, and same thing with DC. So I did submit to Image and Dark Horse and Alterna and a few others. I almost got picked up by Action Lab, but they said it wasn't. They weren't sure how to market it. That's what they told me. Sure. They thought there was too many elements to it, and they weren't sure how to do
when you have a superhero team with technical and magic, technology and magic users on the same team, that absolutely doesn't work. New Teen Titans.
Right? I don't get it, but okay. And then Alterna, Peter Samedi, he actually almost picked it up, but he said I had to make some tweaks to do some editing, which I did before I released issue 1. But at the same time, looking at how much publishers want, and percentage wise, and doing things their way. And I know it would get the book out more, but at the same time, I was like, there's a lot of different things I want to do that publishers can't do. So I'm trying to see how that goes for now. So maybe in the future, I'll change my mind and see what's up with a publisher. But for now, like I said, I'm just enjoying doing this style.
So
Because
let's
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I said, let's look at the campaign just a little bit. I mean, not how you're running everything, but what are the people getting in the campaign? What's the buy-in level, and what is the product in return?
Right.
As far as page count and all that.
Okay. Well, issue 1 is 26 pages, and issue 2 is 28. So if you get both, that's a total of 54 pages of story. And I should say that you can get issue 1 during this campaign. And how that works is you'll pick one of the issue 2 perks, and then inside of there will be the option to add on issue 1. And issue 1 in the last campaign, or the campaign for it was $10, but it's $7 in this campaign.
Okay, that's a reasonable buy-in for a book that size, because we're looking at things like $25 standard for 60 to 80 pages on everything else. So you shrink the page count, you shrink the buy-in cost. Sounds perfectly reasonable there. What kind of tiers do you have? I mean, is it basically here's book 2, and with this one you get book 1?
Well, should I screen share the?
You can screen share if you got more power than I got.
All right.
I think you have power to screen share.
Let's see.
I can screen share too, but until I get a newer computer, if I share a screen, we're going to lock everything up.
Oh, there it
I
goes.
learned that the hard way.
Took me a second to figure that out. Okay. All right. So
I see it.
Cool. All right. So we'll start with we'll go with the deluxe package. So in the deluxe package, in this one, you get the PDF, you get a signed copy of issue 2, as well as 2 character trading cards. I did 2 in the first issue as well. The first campaign. I'm planning to do 2 for every campaign, and eventually there'll be a whole series of trading cards. Then there's also an art print that you get, and the art print in that package you will get of this cover here, but without any of the wording and the logo. It will just be the art itself. And then there's the PDF for $5. And then you also get, or you can also get the book for $10. And with that one, like I was saying earlier, if you add on issue 1 with shipping, that comes to $25 for 54 pages of story. And that is the unsigned version of the book.
Cool.
Then there's the signed version that for $15. I do a metallic cover. I did one for the last campaign, and it did really well. And I'm a big fan of metallic covers, as I saw you are too, with the Spider-Man cover you showed me earlier. But the issue 1 of the metallic cover turned out fantastic. So I'm really excited about this one, especially with how well the issue 2 cover looks, just not metallic. And that's for $20. And then you can also get the autographed metallic for $25. And then there's the metallic deluxe package. With that, you get the PDF, you get a metallic cover signed, as well as 2 metallic trading cards and a metallic art print. The trading cards.
A lot of metal going in here.
Yeah. The metallic trading cards are just going to be the metallic version of the regular cards, but in the case of the art print, that will be a different piece of art. I haven't decided yet what that's going to be. I'm still getting in art from my artists, but it should be too long before I can reveal what that's going to be.
Now, how did you get hooked up with the art team on this? I mean, when you're wanting to do an Indiegogo, it's you gotta cast about and look for an artist unless you're already friends with somebody, and this is a joint effort with all of you.
Right. Well, I so after I wrote my script, I should go back a little bit too. Like at first, I wasn't gonna do this unless I can prove to myself I can even write a proper comic book script. Uh, let alone prove that I can, be a writer. In my head, I thought I could, but I never written anything before. So I sat down, wrote the script, and loved it, and I was like, okay, well then I can do this. So got it edited and went through a few drafts, and then I started looking for artists. I went to DeviantArt actually and put up well, I did a few others too, but DeviantArt's where I got the most hits, and on there I just gave basically a rundown of what I was going for, what kind of story I was trying to make, and what kind of art style I was going for, and then I was over 100 applications of different artists. It took me about a month to go through them all and to narrow it down to one, and that ended up being Brian Belando. And he actually is friends with Brian McNahee, who's a colorist. He's actually colored some CG books, some Comicscape books as well, and so he told me about Brian McNahee, and said, "Hey, a friend of mine, he's a really good colorist. You should look at his stuff." And we've worked. He said too, they worked together on stuff. So I went and looked at all of his examples, and also there's stuff that they had done together, and that was phenomenal. I was like, okay, yeah, this is my guy. We got to a nice price point, and then he became my colorist.
That's the other thing is that you have to pay a page rate up front for an artist. They don't get paid out of the
yeah.
fund.
Well, yeah. In the case of both issues, now I have paid up front for both artists, and so now basically the campaign is just to make that back, but at the same time, if it goes over the goal, then that will go towards the next issue as well.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now the first issue,
your campaign has.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say your campaign has how much to go, and is it on track to complete?
I'm not really sure at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, I have a lot of people telling me that they're going to back it, but I don't. Hopefully. But right now, since I'm sitting at less than 1,500, I'm not sure if it's going to hit the goal. But at the same time, if I have to, I will extend the campaign another 30 days. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I don't have to, because then I can focus on other things. But if it happens, then it happens, and that's okay. I'll just keep gunning along. Let's see.
Exactly.
What were we gonna say?
Do you look at Chaotic Flux as you see this as a story arc that's like, this is going to be wrapped up in 6 issues, it's going to be wrapped up in 12 issues?
Yeah. No. I mean, I got a lot of ideas for this story. I mean, a lot of big things to come. I'm of course going to limit myself some. I've already tucked away some ideas for other stories, not Chaotic Flux, maybe in the future. But right now I would say it's probably going to be at least. I almost want to say somewhere in the range of 50 issues.
50 issues.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It could be more than that too. I'm just not sure. Yeah, there's a lot of. I didn't mention it earlier, but for instance, in issue 2. Okay, so I didn't even say what issue 2 is about earlier. So issue 2 picks up where issue 1 leaves off, and it gets into how Nalaria or not Nalaria. I'm sorry, wrong character. So Thara is thrust into this race against time to save a family from being devoured by one of the Dread Fiends. And so then it's a life or death situation there. Lots of great action, lots of very tense moments in the story, and you also, or we'll also get introduced to the present version of the Order of Purging Hand. And the present time, their leader, well, he becomes a leader in this time, he self-proclaimed leader. His name is Thraxus Prime, and Thraxus Prime, in part of the past that comes later, he ends up becoming a cyborg through nanotech, and this nanotech he's able to control, and he's kind of like this, I guess you could say, cybernetic vampire in a sense, where he can infect people with the nanobots and turn them into cyborgs as well. Well, he believes that in order for the Purging Hand to become better able to deal with the things that they're trying to fight and deal with in the present, now they're having to fight the Dread Fiends because, like I said earlier, they feel like anything that's not of Earth is a natural and should be wiped out. So now they're fighting the Dread Fiends as well, but they're still trying to find Zathara because they know she's out there and hunt her down. So he believes, like I said, that it's better for them to evolve. I mean, better for them to upgrade in that sense. So he starts turning all of the soldiers of the Purging Hand into cyborgs against their will, and he can also control them, their actions, in a way through this. So that's another, kind of evolved enemy that comes into issue 2. So just an example of how, I mean, there's a lot of layers to this series, and you get a little bit more and more as I go along. I open the door a little bit more into the world, into the characters, into the backstories. You get more action, you get more of the deep drama and the wild character conflicts and what have you. But I didn't, like you asked me before, if I introduced Malachar at the beginning, and I, in a sense, I show his army, but I don't actually get him yet in there yet. I was trying really hard not to put too much into the story right off the bat, so the reader didn't have it wasn't really too overflowed with all these different elements. So it's a kind of an easing in to get people familiar with the world and the characters. And a lot of people keep asking me about, well, was this character coming in more in this character? And I'm like, patience, they're coming. I just, I got to build to it. I can't just throw it all at you at once. I almost went with, starting out as a graphic novel, but that was a lot of money up front for me. So right now we're just at the, issue by issue level.
Yeah, IGT is not a let's come up with an idea and win the lottery thing. I don't think people realize how much you actually have to invest monetarily up front before you actually have a project that you may or may not make money on.
Right. Yeah, I would love to be able to.
It's not always going to be the same story over.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough, but
you know what's going to happen with these dread beasts, don't you?
What's that?
They're going to get infected with that nanobot, and you're going to have something out there that's going to be bigger than you've thought about how to kill.
Right. Well, I'm not going to say anything, but there's an interesting element that's similar to that I'm playing with in the storyline. No, I won't say nothing. But yeah, it's similar to that, but not quite. Actually, it's kind of an opposite thing, but yeah, we'll see. I'm
finding out that I'm very careful with this interview. Yeah. I come up with things that are coming up in 7 issues down the road, and they're like, "Shh, I can't talk about that."
Right. Oh, I've had that with a friend of mine who was like, "Well, how'd you figure that out?" But anyway, then I'll say the last 2 perks too was the collector's package, and in that one you get everything I've already mentioned. So you get the PDF, you get the signed book, you get the signed metallic, both versions of the trading cards, as well as both art prints. And then 75 for the All Out Chaos, you get all of that plus a T-shirt. And the T-shirt is is the cover art of issue 2. And I had an example of the T-shirt down here. Let's see, where is it at? There it is. So it's just a little Rough example that I threw together, but
Very, very nice. That's something else that we have now that you young people don't appreciate. I worked at a comic shop when I was in high school, and this is dating things to 1985. And they ran a T-shirt shop in the back, and they had a process that they could put a comic cover on a T-shirt.
Mhm.
It involved slicing the cover off the comic book.
Really? Yeah.
And then,
Poor
and then
comic.
pressing it onto the T-shirt. So you got a reverse
That's
image
crazy.
of the comic. If
Okay.
you wanted your favorite X-Men on there, it was
That's
great,
actually-
but it said X-Men backwards.
Right. Wow. That's pretty clever for back then, but wow.
But yeah, so
Like
you
you-
would,
like you
you would
said,
trim
you don't
all
know
the
how-
words out.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we don't know how good had it back or have it now versus back then.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's this all, and we've got a T-shirt shop too. It's
Yeah.
linked in the description below.
Nice.
You
Check
can
that
go to TeePublic and you can get our wonderful "Ask Me About My" #ComicsGate agenda, and wear that to conventions and answer questions, like I have had to do before. It's interesting that how many people just don't care because it's they come up and said, "Okay, tell me about your ComicsGate agenda." I'm like, "It's don't call your customers Nazi. Put out a good product." Like, okay, why is that controversial? I'm like, go on to find out. So take a second to
It's like
chill here.
it's like you're kicking them down the into the pit. Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like good luck because you yell at them as they're falling down.
Don't blame me when you come
Yeah,
back without a
yeah.
soul. Momentary shill here. We do have links in the description of this video. The first one, of course, is to Scott's Indiegogo. We want you to go there and click on that, back that, get this project pushed over the goal line here so we can get a second issue cranked out for Scott. And then, of course, if you do like this channel, we are less than 250. I'm taking that as a small positive number. Less than 250 subscribers to crack that 1,000 mark, which is where YouTube wants us to be before they treat us like anything less than second-class citizens. And if you want to help the channel out in other ways, we have links to our first young adult published novel under the Critical Blast imprint. It is a real hardcover book available on Amazon and available through Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold because it is distributed through Ingram. This is Bulletproof Origins, the first book in this superhero series from Stephen J. Mitchell. And it involves a 16-year-old boy who wakes up one day to find out that he is bulletproof, literally indestructible to impact, and having to deal now suddenly with a band of terrorists who want the secret that makes him so. Because when you're bulletproof, you're bomb-proof. So that is out there. That's in fact, that's on sale at Amazon right now. If you click on it, follow through, get Steven pushed out there. We got 6 reviews on it so far and maintaining a 5-star review average. So something
Nice.
must be going right with that.
It's a very interesting story.
So where do we go now with Chaotic Flux? At 2 weeks on this campaign, I'm guessing that you're not just waiting to see how this one goes before you're working on issue 3. Is that already in development, or are you kind of waiting to see?
I have issue 3 scripts about 80% done. I'm hoping to finish that within the next week or so and then start getting it drafted. So with that, I'm hopeful, aiming for possibly, because of course, after I'm going to try to finish the script completely by the end of March, or actually, I'm going to try before the end of February, and hopefully get the art kicked up, going for that. Right now, it's looking like the art for issue 2 will be finished at the beginning of March or second week of March, and no, I should take that back. No, beginning of this month. Yeah, beginning of this month, and then
Okay.
off the printer and then ship it out. But issue 3, I'm looking to start the art on it as soon as we're done with issue 2. I already told my artists that that's my plan, and of course they're very excited. So my overall goal for this year, I'm gonna shoot for getting issue 4 out as well. But we'll see how that goes. I've got some conventions I'm going to be doing.
Excellent.
Yeah, so hopefully that won't take up too much of my time to where I can, still get the next 2 books out this year.
That's not something I've heard much about. Is the crowdfunding guys setting up their convention appearances? I know there's been talk of a convention of all of them at one place in Florida, but no one's ever said, hey, the guy who did this crowdfunded book is going to have a table at this convention or that convention.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit's been. You always hear about the people calling newspapers and say, "Hey, did you know there's going to be a Nazi at the comic book convention this weekend? You might be check that out."
Wow. Yeah. I don't really get conventions. I don't get people like coming up to me really and saying anything about Comicsgate. I've noticed.
It's because most people are normal.
Yeah, because I think most
hence
people
the definition of
don't
the word.
care what you are. They just as long as you're getting your project out there and they like it and they want to read it, which is what it really should be about. But Vinny Tartamella, he's done some conventions last year, and I think he's doing some more this year. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he is. So some of us do. He's like the only one I could think of off the top of my head that I know has done conventions. And conventions, I did pretty well last year. I did 3 last year, and so far I got 4 lined up this year. And they're so much fun. I love doing them and making meeting fans in person and making new fans and the book is sold really well at the conventions. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not crazy worried about the campaign not getting fully funded. Of course, I really wanted to get really fully funded, but I also know that I got conventions coming up, and I'm pretty confident the books are going to do well at these conventions if it's anything like this last year. And
We're looking forward to our convention appearances, but of course, we're not publishing a comic book, so our stuff is a little bit harder to sell because we've got big pages of black and white text to put out on the table.
Actually, the last convention,
you have to take it home and get into it.
Right. The last convention that I was at, which was Wizard World Austin, there was a lot of book authors at that one. I was surprised. I want to say, I think we counted at least 15 or so book artists or book writers there. Even there's a guy right next to us that is a writer or was a writer right next to our booth, and that was the most writers I've seen at a convention that year. But still, it was pretty neat. Like, and there's a lot of comic book artists too and creators as well. But it was kind of neat seeing the two mixing together and mixing well, pretty well together.
Wizard World St. Louis is what we go to, and it's what we're looking forward to again this year.
Nice.
The thing that disappoints me about the Wizard World convention, Wizard World, we love you guys. We do. We really do. Don't take this the wrong way, but again, when I went to conventions and the snow both ways uphill, you went to a comic book convention and there were comic book companies there.
Yeah.
You saw it wasn't just San Diego that was the big show. You went to the DC table and you got autographs. You went to the Marvel table, the Dark Horse table. There were presences there. And now it's not so much. I'm like, where are you guys at as a company if you're not at San Diego? Country wants to see you as well. And of course, I was going to Chicago. I guess maybe they go to C2E2. C2E2 anymore, it's too far away.
You broke. Are you
responsibilities to these little things running around the house that kind of look like you when you were little, and they want food.
RJ,
and
you kind of got like dropped out really bad there for
you got to get up to move out.
You there, RJ?
Lost you. Scott,
Yeah, I
there you
lost you.
are.
Was that me,
Yeah,
or did I drop out, or did you drop out? Oh, I
hey,
dropped out.
oh,
Sorry, guys.
we won't know who dropped out until we who play. Uh, but but yeah, hopefully we'll start seeing comic book companies
Yeah,
be
yeah. When I was the three that I
convention
did last
appearance
year,
people again.
yeah, I didn't see a single one of them. You know, there wasn't even like just people there representing the books that aren't even from the company. You know what I mean? Not really artists or anything. There was nothing. Um,
Yeah,
so it is weird. It's very strange. They just kind of let the merchants take most of the cons now, and what few creators do come out. And although I would say I did one in San Antonio, and that was a really good convention. Again, there was no Marvel booth or whatever, but there were some big artists there and big names. But so that was cool. Um, I
yeah. If you
know.
look, you see the artists. A lot of the independent
Yeah,
guys will show the covers they've done for like.
yeah,
There's always some Zenescope artists running around showing their wares, and that's cool.
yeah, yeah. I'm doing one in Dallas, and there's some pretty big names there. Like what's his name? Greg Capullo is going to be at that one, and I want to
Oh,
say Jim
nice.
Lee is too, but I'm not for sure. I know there's some other big names that I saw. Oh, the guy that does uh was it Batman White Knight? The
Oh
artist.
yeah,
That
Sean
one.
Gordon Murphy.
Yeah, he's going to be there.
Yeah, you gonna do Bell County?
I almost did Bell County last year. I've been thinking about it this year, but it's a pretty long drive for me, so I'm not really sure. I did
Yeah,
hear that one
I
turned out
survived
really
a year
well
in
though.
Waco.
Oh yeah,
I survived a year
good
in
for you.
Waco, so I'm aware of the conventions that were there.
Yeah, I heard that
I
one did really
escaped.
well last year though. Like they didn't have like big guests, but the turnout was really good. They said as far as
I've heard
attendance.
good things about it from the people who've gone.
Mm,
You know, so yeah, I know Richard's gone there one year. Tim Lim is a regular there, I believe. I know he knows the convention people, so he's got a good rapport with them. He doesn't have the backlash that some other indie CG adjacent, no longer CG, whatever it is.
mm,
If you guys created Indiegogo books and you broke away, you're crowdfunding independent people.
right.
So be proud of it.
Yeah. I still look forward to a day when none of this matters and we just go back the way it was. And I mean, of course, now I want independent comics creators to still be around for sure, but I want it to be where if you're an independent creator, it doesn't matter what your political stance is or whatever. You're just making good stories and good books and getting them out there. And I don't know, it's just so weird nowadays.
Well, I contend that what that's going to take is somebody crowdfunding a publishing house. We've already got the
Mm,
people who are doing the independent thing. We
mhm,
need somebody like a Mark Alessi to
mhm.
come along and bring another cross-gen to the table and just umbrella all these crowdfunded projects. Let
Right.
them, crowdfund the way they are, but give them a universal imprint, a universal look. Take care of the actual printing of the thing so that everything
Mm,
is standardized across the
that'd be
platforms.
fantastic. Yeah.
Be able to arrange for intercompany crossovers if they wanted to do something like that,
Mhm,
uh, and just basically have a bullpen
mhm.
uh,
And
and
make it affordable,
earn your way into it.
affordable as possible, and
Exactly.
because like you said, like we a lot of us, still have day jobs, and we're still just scrounging along in our own ways, and but yet we want to share our stories with the world, and just get them out there, and but not at the same time break the bank. You know what I mean? Sometimes
Exactly.
I think printers are kind
Exactly.
of ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Well, that's the other thing that a publication house who would umbrella over everything would have the advantage of is that they have your print run, they
Hmm.
have the other guy's print run, and they
Hmm.
have this guy's print run. So now they've got a bulk print run
Right,
of greater quantity, and they can get better deals with these printers
right,
because of the repeat business and the higher quantities.
yeah,
Plus, they can distribute it into stores
exactly.
and
And
not just
that's
be the
kind of what I
mail
was
order
about.
business.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was going to touch on too. Is all those elements you named as well. You would be good competition for Diamond. Since they've monopolized the whole industry, they need some freaking competition.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a much better world when Diamond had to worry about Friendly Franks and Capital Comics
Yep.
and all these other places that you could get your comics from. And there are still, other places you can do it from, but let's face it, if you open a comic shop, you're going to order from Diamond. That's who you're going to do it from.
Exactly.
Scott, it's been fun.
Yeah.
I hope
I've enjoyed it.
Somebody watches this. Kind of been watching people come in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share it out and
What
everything.
I
And
can really
see
do
what
to get
happens.
this more.
Yeah.
I think I need to have my phone with me when I do this, so I can actually share the link when it's live, because I don't think people come to just the channel.
Uh-huh.
I'm working this out. I'll figure out what we're doing wrong here. Man boobs on here, and by golly, that's I'll just take the shirt off.
Right. Well, maybe, I mean, I don't know how you feel about like co-host
A
or
little
something.
bit, I know. Anyway, hey, well, that's what you are right now. You have a special co-host every other
Right.
night. We'll be on here.
Yep.
We'll be on here tomorrow with Longbox Comics, and I know what viewers. I'm trying to get Mandy to come on here and to talk about Wart the Wizard. I've been after Blake Northcott to come after us for a while, so we can talk about those Everglade Angels, which is shipping. Which we'll have a review of when that's available. We know what you want, but I'll bring other guests on. Next time you want to talk, if anything changes, let us know. And we'll be on for issue.
Hey, you're breaking up bad.
All right, looks like we're losing it. Good time to sign out.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, man.
Talk to you later, Scott.
Talk to you later, bud. Thanks.
See ya. Take care.